Welcome to the Happiness Podcast. I'm Dr. Robert Puff. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we had a knob connected to our body and this knob controlled our feelings? When we turned it down, it would suppress any sadness, anxiety, grief, or emotional pain that we were experiencing at that moment. But unfortunately, that knob is connected to all our emotions, so not only would we turn down the sadness in our heart, we would also turn down the joy in our heart. The truth is, our emotional system has a master volume fader. If we lower our volume on pain, we also lower our volume on love. Perhaps an extreme case will help illustrate this point. A friend of mine told me about years ago how she had dated a man who really had no emotions, either good or bad. And he remembers when he was a kid, he used to watch really scary movies just so he could feel something. And in truth, because he had no real emotions, either good or bad, he wasn't a very good boyfriend for her. In fact, he ended up being a terrible boyfriend, abusive and cruel. So it sounds great. We're going through a rough time. We don't want to feel them. Let's turn them off. This is called desensitization. It's a survival strategy that some people use to get through really difficult times. Very few of us are born with it. Most of us have to turn towards something to desensitize our hearts. We've all seen it and know stories about it. Someone's girlfriend breaks up with him and he goes on a 3-week drinking binge not to deal with the emotions of the loss. It sounds like a good strategy. I don't want to feel this pain, Dr. Puff. I want to desensitize myself to what I'm going through right now. So we numb ourselves. And in our world, there's a lot of ways to desensitize or numb our hearts. But here's the part that a lot of people don't think about when they choose this path. The same walls that we're putting up not to feel the pain also keep all of life out. When we turn on our master volume fader, it doesn't just fade the pain, it fades all of our emotions, the good ones too. When I was doing my residency at the VA hospital in Sepulveda years ago, I worked with a lot of veterans who had seen some horrific things during their tour of duty. For the ones that ended up at the VA hospital, they didn't want to remember what they went through. They wanted to numb it. But it came at such a high cost. Not only did they numb the pain, they numbed their lives. I was honored and blessed to work with these men and women who had done so much for our country, but their lives were not filled with joy and happiness. They were struggling deeply because by numbing their pain, they numbed all their life. This mechanism creates what's called a callous heart. We numb ourselves when we get overwhelmed. One term for it is compassionate fatigue. The people that I worked with at the VA hospital would describe how their buddy, their friend, got killed right in front of them. And it was just so hard for them to think about it, let alone feel their feelings. It felt like to them it was just too much. Not all of us go through the tragedy that these war veterans did, but nowadays our world is very different, and not in a good way necessarily. I still work with people that have gone through very tragic life experiences that I help heal as a clinical psychologist. But the new thing I've seen recently is what our digital age is giving us an unfortunate exposure to if we're not careful. We can see more tragedy in 10 minutes of scrolling than our ancestors saw in a lifetime. I remember the first time I ever experienced this was when the movie The Exorcist came out. I didn't know much about it, and it was popular, so I went and saw it. I was a young teenager, and it really scared me, and it took weeks for those images to get out of my head. Hollywood, and now the digital age of AI, is completely changing what all of us can see that we never would have seen before. And we have to ask ourselves, what is this doing to our hearts? If we continue to expose ourselves to things that aren't good for our soul, we'll sooner or later start developing defense mechanisms. It's much like how our hands grow calluses to protect our skin from friction. Our hearts, if we continue to expose ourselves to disturbing experiences or images are going to grow a shell to protect our hearts from being overwhelmed. It has to. But here's the danger. Just like a callus is effective because it cannot feel, a callous hand may be able to hold a hot rope, but it cannot feel the softness of a rose petal. A callous heart may survive, but it does not thrive. There's a book called The Giver by Lois Lowry. It's about a utopian society that has eliminated all pain, war, and fear, and they achieve this through sameness. The protagonist, Jonas, discovers that by eliminating pain, they also eliminated color, music, and love, so the people end up existing in a pleasant yet numb gray area. There's a point in the book where Jonas is reflecting on life, and he thinks, they have never known pain, he thought. The realization made him feel desperately lonely, but it also made him realize that without the memory of pain, there was no true happiness. When we avoid the pain in life, it also kills the joy in our life. There's a beautiful poet/philosopher from Lebanon who lived over 100 years ago named Khalil Gibran, who expounded on the relationship between joy and sorrow. He said these two are inseparable and used the metaphor of a cup that holds wine is the very same cup that was burned in a potter's oven. He writes, the deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. What he means is, the more we desensitize or not let the sorrows and pains of life carve us deeply so that later we can hold the joys of life, there may be no sorrow, but there will also be no joy. And then recently in the research world, at the University of Houston and the University of Texas at Austin, Brene Brown, a leading scientist on vulnerability, she found that you cannot selectively numb emotion. When we numb grief, shame, and fear, we numb gratitude, joy, and authenticity. She writes, we cannot selectively numb emotions. When we numb the painful emotions, we also numb the positive emotions. So the numbing creates a paradox. It's almost like we create a zombie state. Because we're living on autopilot, desensitization leads to a flatline life. We aren't sad, but we aren't happy. We're just, in quotes, fine. Have you ever heard the acronym for FINE? F, freaked out, I, insecure, N, neurotic, E, emotional. But we're fine. But along with all this, we also lose empathy. When we are desensitized, we stop seeing other people as people and start seeing them as objects or headlines. Because we've numbed ourselves to our own feelings, we're now numb to other people's feelings too. So how then do we change this? How do we live our lives well, embracing both the sorrows and the joys of life, those of our own and of others? We have to create what I'm going to call the great thaw. And the first way we do this is by limiting our trauma diet. We have to stop consuming graphic news and all the way that social media pulls us in, say, come watch, this is so exciting. But it isn't. It causes us trauma. We don't need to see a car crash to know what happens. We need to protect our sensitivity. You'll actually know you're doing better when you realize that, oh, I am really bothered by what I just watched right now. Because so many people don't even notice. They become so numb to what they see. As you become healthier, you'll see that this isn't good for my soul, and you'll feel it. I can't even tell you the number of times I've started watching some movie or some program, and I turn it off because it just upsets me, and I realize it isn't good for my soul. We need to be careful. We need to protect our hearts, because if we don't protect our hearts, then our hearts are going to become numb, and we're going to lose that happiness and joy that really, when our hearts are well, is our natural state. But when we consume things that are not good for our soul, then we lose that joy, that happiness, that peace. Next, we need to lean into the discomforts of life. When we're feeling a sad feeling, instead of distracting ourselves, like turning to social media, or a rich dessert when we're not even hungry, or some form of mood-altering drug, let's just sit with it for 90 seconds. Then we can begin to show our brain that we can survive the feeling without numbing it. There are so many ways to numb our hearts, and they can lead to a very tragic life. Think of a severe heroin or meth addict. They turn to that drug because of pain. They don't want to feel the pain of life. And the drug, for a moment, helps them take away that pain. And initially, it even brings them some joy. But in the long run, they become very numb. Have you ever seen a homeless person who's addicted to drugs, happy, joyful, and living the good life? No, because they're numbing themselves. I know this is an extreme form of numbing, but ours too, whatever we're doing, is really the same thing. Maybe not as intense, maybe not as severe, but there's still a price tag to pay for numbing, where all we really have to do is realize that we can heal the feelings. I spent my entire career helping people heal from everything imaginable. We are incredibly resilient and able to overcome anything. And I do mean anything. We have to be brave. We may need help from others. But if we make it our goal to not numb and just heal and work through whatever things we're struggling with in our lives, what we'll find is we get the benefits of this work. We'll find that now joy, happiness, and peace, instead of being something elusive, is there throughout the day. And then the third thing we can do to help create this great thaw is practicing awe, actively looking for things that stimulate the wonder emotion, a sunset, a piece of music, a child laughing. We can exercise our good feelings muscles too. In conclusion, we have a choice that we make every day. We can choose between a safe, numb, gray existence or a risky, colorful, vibrant life. It takes courage to be sensitive in an insensitive world, but that sensitivity is the only way to truly experience the beauty that we carry with us wherever we go, as long as we don't numb ourselves. And if you want to carry a beautiful affirmation that you can repeat throughout the day, repeat this one. I am willing to feel it all so that I can have it all. Thank you for joining me on the Happiness Podcast. If you'd like to learn more about the podcast, please go to www.happinesspodcast.org. That's happinesspodcast.org. Until next time, accept what is, love what is.